How good are organisations at defining KPIs and putting KPIs around this?
So there's a number of ways of doing it. So obviously, depending on what your values are, there will be quite sort of value-specific KPIs. So if you've got something around in your value statement, if you're a law firm, you're probably going to be saying something about your clients, right?
Yeah.
So you should see, be looking in, whatever client satisfaction surveys or client feedback you get, that should reflect what you're trying to do on that. Does that get better? Okay. So that's so there might be quite specific things, that you can do, which are related. But then there's a sort of a more general thing that you need to do. And I think, before you actually see the uptick in financial performance, you can certainly look at things. I find a really powerful measure is engagement scores, so your employee engagement scores. And most firms will do that. They'll do some kind of pulse survey or something like that. And so you can ask quite specific questions in that. Do people feel better? Are they going to be a promoter of the firm? Do they enjoy working here? And some organisations will do that for you. So like here in the UK, we've got the Best Companies survey. We've got, various other sort of organisations where you can sort of look, or if you think something, there's other awards and things like that. Do you, if you're going for innovation, do you get FT Innovative Lawyer Awards and so on? There's chambers and so on. So there's lots of rankings looking at different angles. Yeah. So you should see those as well. Yeah. But I think the immediate one, I think, is employee engagement, and certainly. The organisations, the firms that I've worked with who've had the biggest successes have really monitored through their employee engagement surveys, which they'll be doing maybe on an annual or biannual basis. They will actually just ask specific questions about, if these are the values, has it got better? And you look at things like their trust in management and so on. That's a really powerful measure. You see that improving as well. So those sorts of things are the things that you should be looking for. And initially you're measuring perceptions, asking people, has it got better? Are people living up to these values better? Do you see your partners living up to these better? And then eventually you will hopefully see it coming through in more tangible.
Is it fair to say that the culture is defined by the financial rewards and the financial metrics?
I mean, and sometimes I've worked with, it doesn't happen as often now, thank goodness, but certainly when I started working, and particularly around culture, and including in the Big Four firm where I worked for 4 years for the international chairman, looking at the firm's globalization strategy, working with the firm's international board and executive team, and we started talking about values, the values of the firm. We talked about the core purpose, core values, and so on. And and you would often get back sort of comments like, well, it's all about the money, kind of. It's about profit. We believe in it's all about making money. Kind of said, my response was, well, if it's just all about making money, why don't you become drug dealers? Because I can tell you that's probably more lucrative than being accountants.
Yes,
And then of course they go like, oh, but that's illegal, and then no, we have to have integrity. And I kind of go like, well, there's one value at least, you believe in, it's pretty basic, but and it might also be driven by you not wanting to go to prison, but but it's definitely. And then you start talking about, well, and there's sort of, it's not about, if you're just purely driven to make money without any checks and balances and values about how you make that money, then you do run the risk of just riding roughshod over everything else. Now, it might not be sort of to the extent that you go off and do something as bad as a drug dealer does, right? But it might be about just not really caring about your people enough, or doing, letting the partner who's a bit of a bully get away with it, and so on. That kind of thing. You will make judgments, you'll make decisions which ultimately aren't really for the good of the firm if you're just purely profit driven. And we have seen in the past, I mean, it was quite a long time ago now, but we have seen some firms just fall apart where the only thing that was holding them together was the money. The values, the common values, shared values provide the glue that holds the firm together. If you're just purely profit driven, well, I mean, Look, some firms, it's a bit of a psychological contract as well, isn't it? So if you're a young, talented trainee, you may choose to go and work for that firm where you're going to work every hour, you're not going to be treated well, you're going to just slog, but you're going to get really, really well paid for it, and you're going to have a big name on your CV. And then maybe you're not going to stick around because you're going to burn out and you go and join a different firm. But that's the psychological contract,
psychological contract, because you're talking about positive culture, and now we're talking about the negative culture. But people are attracted to some of those organisations that, from the outside, look as if they've got negative culture. But as you say, there is a clear, open social contract with the people that work there.
That's right, yes, yeah. And I think if you're clear about that, then people have the choice, to do that. I think if you're a firm that can't afford to pay that, you're probably going to be looking at your culture to try and make sure you can attract and retain the right talent. You have to be a firm where people enjoy coming to work, or where they feel that it's really good for their growth or so on, that they're not just kind of in the sausage machine, if you like.